Hello, is this live? Hi there. My name's Karie. I'm the in-house tour guide at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery. And due to the COVID-19 pandemic, obviously I can't give tours right now, but I thought doing a weekly tour talk would be a fun way for me to engage with people, talk about the history that I love, and hopefully put something fun and enjoyable out there for people. A little bit about me because people always ask me almost every week. Yes, my name is Karie Bible. I was born with the name, and people wonder how I got into doing the tour. Well, my mom and dad are very interested in history, especially the Civil War. So when I was growing up, we went to a lot of battlefields and homes and cemeteries and places around the country. And it's one thing to learn about history in a classroom, but it's really different to stand on the soil where that history happened. And to me, it sort of brings history to life. So I was just entranced by history in general. Then, as a little girl, I fell in love with classic Hollywood. My gateway drug into this world was the Universal horror movies. And I did not like Barbie dolls. I liked Bela Lugosi and Boris Karloff. I still do, my girlhood heroes, as it should be for every little girl. I grew up, I got a degree in film from what was then the College of Santa Fe, and I moved to Los Angeles in the year 2000. And I paid a visit to the cemetery. And I looked around and I fell insanely in love with it, as I hope everybody does who comes there to visit. And I asked around, they didn't have a tour guide. And I thought, maybe that could be me. So I met with a historian who mentors me. I met with the owner of the cemetery. And I've now been giving tours there at least 2 to 3 times a month, publicly and privately by appointment, since February of 2002. So I just hit my 18-year anniversary shortly before the pandemic happened. And the tour's been featured in the Los Angeles Times, CNN, Turner Classic Movies, and Best of LA Weekly. So shameless plugs over there. I was kind of surprised by the number of questions that people started sending in when I announced I was going to do this. It was cool. It was a good surprise. But some of you may be surprised to see I'm not at Hollywood Forever right now. Well, as much as I would love to be, they are currently closed during the pandemic. And if you have a loved one there, or if you own property there, you can visit. But for all of the rules and guidelines, I recommend going to their website, hollywoodforever.com, or simply calling the front office and asking first. At any rate, so I thought what we would do for these episodes is I would talk about a different star at the cemetery, and each week a different star, and then maybe recommend different books, DVDs, and things you could look up and enjoy during the quarantine. So I thought this week, Hollywood Forever, well, just a little bit about the cemetery, actually. Let's start there. The cemetery was founded in 1899. Of course, Hollywood was not the Hollywood we know today in 1899. It was wheat fields, lemon groves, pepper trees, kind of the last gasp of the American West. The first burial at the cemetery did not even occur until 1901, and it was Highland Mosby Price, and she was the wife of a local blacksmith. That name might sound familiar because, of course, we have Highland, the street that runs right through Hollywood, and of course, Hollywood and Highland. So that's where those places got that name from. And a lot of the cemetery's land was unused and wound up becoming leased for studio space, which would eventually go on to become RKO and Paramount Pictures. In the I think around the 1950s, there was a man named Jules Roth who ran the cemetery from the 1950s till the late 1990s. He was a corrupt individual, and the cemetery unfortunately fell into disrepair for some time. But in 1998, Tyler Cassidy, our current owner, and his team took over, and they've really done an amazing job of bringing Hollywood Forever gloriously back to life. The grounds are very beautiful. For those of you who've been there, you know what I'm talking about. For those of you who haven't, there's definitely a lot of pictures and videos online. But we have a beautiful, beautiful 60-something acre cemetery. Also, we have movie screenings. We have concerts indoor and outdoor. We've had all sort of literary events. And we have what is probably one of the largest Day of the Dead or Dia de los Muertos celebrations in America. So Hollywood Forever is a very creative and unique, beautiful place. And I think it's probably one of the most innovative cemeteries in America, if not even the entire world. So I feel extremely grateful to be able to be their in-house tour guide and to be able to get to do what I do. So I'm very grateful to Tyler and the entire staff. So I'd like to talk about a star this week that you may not know about. Now, we have a who's who of celebrities at Hollywood Forever, including Rudolph Valentino, Douglas Fairbanks Sr. and Jr., Fay Wray, Marion Davies, tons of stars from Hollywood past and even present, including Johnny Ramone, Dee Dee Ramone, Chris Cornell, etc. But I thought for the first episode, I would start off maybe talking about a star that you didn't know, that was unfamiliar, but who has a fascinating story. So the star of the week I've selected to talk about is Karl Dane. Karl Dane was born in Denmark and came to America. He became an actor, and in the silent era, he was a very in-demand character actor. He wasn't matinee idol handsome. He was sort of a character actor looking kind of guy. He usually played the average everyday man, the soldier, sort of just the average guy kind of roles. And he starred opposite a who's who on the silent era. He was in the film La Boheme and The Scarlet Letter with Lillian Gish. He was in The Red Mill with Marion Davies. He was in The Son of the Sheik with Valentino. And the film that I really wanted to focus in on, that is one of my top 5 favorite films of all time, is The Big Parade. This is a 1925 film that was all about World War I. And Karl Dane plays a doughboy who goes off to fight in the war. And again, he's playing the everyman. He's kind of quirky. He often served as the comic relief in movies. So he's kind of a bit of the comic relief, but also a big part of the drama in World War I in Big Parade. And he's really fantastic in this film. It's such a beautiful anti-war film, a story of a young man whose life is forever changed by his experiences in the war. It's directed by King Vidor. And for those of you who live locally in Hollywood, it had its premiere at the Egyptian Theater in the middle of Hollywood. It also became one of the highest grossing films of the silent era and the highest grossing film in MGM history up until Gone with the Wind. And I think had the Oscars existed in 1925, I'm pretty sure The Big Parade would have swept them all. But Karl Dane, again, is a big part of that movie, and he's really, really touching, and he's wonderful in the film. Now, if you'd like to see it, because again, I want to recommend stuff you can see during quarantine, you can find The Big Parade. Warner Archive has put it out in this beautiful DVD Blu-ray package. You can also rent this film for much cheaper at Amazon and also on YouTube. So I definitely recommend checking this film out. And let me know what you think of it. I'd love to interact with you. So after this live broadcast is over, feel free to leave comments or contact me on Facebook or let me know what you think, and feel free to send me your thoughts. Also, I want to recommend a book about Karl Dane. There is a book about him and about his life that was written by historian Laura Peterson Belleau. And this is an excellent book. A little bit of background on Karl's life. He left his family behind in Denmark and came to America. And he became an actor, as I had mentioned, and he was so in demand, he made 40 movies in 5 years' time. And after that, when sound came, his career started to decline. And one of the questions I do often get asked on the tour is, why did that happen? Why was the reason for that? What was the reason for that? Well, unfortunately, there's a lot of reasons. In the case of Karl Dane, there's a ton of them. First off, he was from Denmark, and his accent was not going to record well in sound, and his accent was a very big problem for them. Also, he was getting older, and sadly, Hollywood has always been a pretty youth-driven place, and he was in his, I think, about mid-40s around the time sound came in, so that was an issue. And Karl Dane was a popular character actor, but he wasn't a top flight star like, say, Greta Garbo. So they weren't going to invest millions and millions of dollars in helping him transition to talking pictures the way they were someone like Garbo either. Also, the end of the silent era was a very difficult time for Karl Dane. He had made all these movies back to back. He was absolutely exhausted. He was experiencing some health problems. His father had died, and he had a nervous breakdown. So he parted ways with MGM, and he did some bit roles, he did some vaudeville, but things kind of went from bad to worse for Karl. So he left the movie industry entirely, and he tried a series of odd jobs, including working as a miner. Well, then it all fell apart, and he was working at a luncheonette in Westwood section of Los Angeles. And the luncheonette didn't work out. Karl Dane was down to his last $18 when he was mugged, and then he had nothing. So he ended his life in his apartment in the Mid-Wilshire area of Los Angeles. And sadly, his family wasn't informed in Denmark for about 2 weeks after this. And his body was unclaimed until MGM actor and fellow Dane, the actor Gene Herschel, that was his name, Gene Herschel, stepped forward and talked to MGM. They claimed the body, and then they buried him, paid for the funeral, and buried him at Hollywood Forever. While Karl's ending is incredibly tragic, I always say this on every tour I give, is that I can show you the graves and I can tell you the stories, but the movies are how they live on. And in the case of Karl, we are lucky that some of these are on DVD. You can find The Son of the Sheik on DVD, I think La Boheme, The Red Mill. Several of the films Karl made, The Scarlet Letter, are available. Also, Laura Peterson Balo, again, wrote this book about Karl Dane's life. And one of the good parts about it was it helped revive interest in Karl. So in 2008, Laura traveled over to Europe, and she did a whole tribute to Karl Dane at the Danish Film Institute. And Karl Dane has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame as well. So I really enjoy kind of seeing Karl get rediscovered by people. And again, he's an interesting man, an interesting life story, and he's well worth checking out. Okay, next. I know the reason some of you might be here and tuning in is because you want to hear about the cemetery or you want to hear about the stars, but I know some of you might be tuning in because of this guy. Close up the cemetery cat. All right, I'm going to talk for a moment about the kitty cats at the cemetery. For those of you who know or maybe don't know, we have a large cat colony of about 50 or so cats that live at Hollywood Forever. Most of them are feral cats, and we do have groundskeepers on the staff that feed them, water them 7 days a week, along with the peacocks, the ducks, the geese, all the animals are extremely well taken care of. There is also a lady named Micheline, and Micheline is the official cat caretaker of Hollywood Forever. She's been there since 2007. And several days a week, she is on site feeding the cats in addition to the groundskeepers. She also does a program where she traps, releases, and spays and neuters every single one of the cats there. And she works in conjunction with two different organizations, Lux Paws and Fix Nation, to see about the cats' spay neutering and also to help the cats with any medical needs they might have. And if there are any cats that are adoptable, then Hollywood Forever and or Micheline will post about that on social media and make sure they get loving forever homes. But a lot of the cats love life at the cemetery. So how I met this black cat named Close Up? Well, I had a black Labrador who sadly died in September. It's been very hard. And a few months after he died, when every week I'd give the tour, and this beautiful, shiny black kitty cat would come running when it heard my voice, jump on Cecil B. DeMille's crypt, and then kind of parade up and down his crypt, kind of like it was his own little personal runway. So I started petting the cat, and he started following the tour. So he would follow grave to grave, and it was really cute and charming and funny. Well, he started doing this every week. And then my friend Beth suggested that I give him Temptations cat treats, which have proven to be a colossal hit. Close Up loves those. I named him Close Up because he started showing up at DeMille's grave. And so if you'll recall that line in the film Sunset Boulevard, Gloria Swanson says, "I'm ready for my close up, Mr. DeMille." So it seemed kind of a fitting name to give a cat that seemed to always show up on DeMille's grave and seemed to love getting attention and showing off. So Close Up has become my buddy and kind of my sidekick, really. He and I have appeared in an episode of the very popular YouTube series called Hollywood Graveyard. And we were recently photographed by the incredible pet portrait photographer, Diana Lundeen. And if you've seen my Facebook page, or I can repost it, she took two beautiful, stunning film noir portraits of us, one in black and white and one in like Technicolor. And believe it or not, I've even had people around the world emailing me asking about Close Up, wanting to meet Close Up when they take the tour someday. So Close Up's kind of become a big star. I have told him all of these things, but he really doesn't care. But that's okay. He's still sweet. And again, whenever I post about him, will email me saying, "Oh, you have to adopt him." Trust me, he would not be happy cooped up in my little one-bedroom apartment when he has about 60-something acres to basically be the king of the domain. So he's a happy boy, he's very healthy, and he loves living life at Hollywood Forever. In fact, when I log off here in a few moments from this, I'm actually going to post a photo that Micheline, the cat caretaker, sent me. And it's Close Up, perched on top of a red sports car, acting like a 1980s supermodel. So again, Close Up he's got such a good life and he knows it. So again, if you have any questions about the cemetery or there's certain stars you want to talk about, feel free to contact me. I'll try to answer your questions either in writing over Facebook or maybe next week on my live broadcast. But again, I thought every week I would talk about a different star and recommend plenty of books and movies for you. So if you have any questions, let me know. But thank you for tuning in. And please follow me next week at 12 noon, where we will learn more about the history behind the headstones at Hollywood Forever. Bye.